Hey YouTube, fellow DIYers. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for subscribing to my channel, and today we're going to cover the assembly of the Ridgid R4512 table saw. There's a bunch of videos online of adjustment and stuff like that, but I couldn't find any videos of assembly, so I went ahead and bought one. I've been needing a good table saw, so I went ahead and bought one, and absolutely love it so far. Great fence. I haven't used it yet, but it's a great. So far, feels like a great fence. Nice and easy to slide. It locks in place really well, and it's got the bump stop switch. So if you hit it, you can bump stop the switch, you know, while you're holding on a piece of wood. And also one of the key features of this saw that I really liked was it came with its own mobile base. It makes it very mobile, so it rolls around very smoothly, and once you're done setting it up where you need to set it up, you can just drop it right back down. The saw is very solid. I had no major issues putting it together. There was a couple of mistakes in the instruction manual, but you'll hear me say it in the video as well. If you got any type of mechanical ability, then you'll be able to work through it. So no big issues though. So on that note, let's get to the assembly. Okay, so I got everything unpackaged, and instruction manual. It's got a list of tools here, so we'll cover that here in a minute. But everything's unpackaged. Everything actually came wrapped in plastic. Every single one of these legs, the corner leg braces, all that, everything came wrapped in plastic. I got a whole trash can full of plastic here. So the tools, let's cover the tools that we're going to need for this assembly. Framing square right here, combination square, Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, and then the saw actually comes with all these Allen wrenches here. Not sure the sizes, but they come in a little plastic bag. So all the Allen wrenches you need, a 8mm socket, a 13mm socket, and you're supposed to have a 4mm wrench. I didn't have one small enough, so I'm just going to use the combination wrench. So it'll get small enough. I got a smaller one if that one's too big to get down to 4mm. A 8mm wrench, a 12mm wrench, 13mm wrench, and a 14mm wrench. So, and then all the hardware packs are all in this cardboard plastic. Everything's labeled out on the back, nice and neat, so you know exactly what hardware goes where. So very easy to understand. All right, and then all the hardware is laid out in a nice plastic tray once you peel this off. Now, what I liked about this kit was these were stapled instead of glued. A lot of stuff that you buy that comes with these hardware kits, these cardboard backings are glued to the plastic, so when you go to rip them off, they get destroyed. So this one was stapled, had a couple of spots of glue, but nothing major. Real simple to separate. And again, here's another hardware kit. There's actually two hardware kits. So large hardware kit, small hardware kit. So, and then all the parts. Corner leg extensions, the legs, some other miscellaneous heavy metal pieces. All the pieces so far feel really solid. I'm pretty impressed with this saw. The hardest part so far was lifting the table saw itself out of the box. I had to get a little bit of help. It is heavy, so make sure you have some friends or a friend to help you out getting the saw out. The instructions say to set it up on some 2-inch thick pieces of wood. I didn't have wood, but I had some foam from the aquarium project, that's in work, and so I laid that down on the deck. This is the dust collection. I'm gonna set that here up here for now. But the instructions say set it over or set it up on two 2-inch thick blocks to help with assembly. And so that's what I did. I had the foam pieces. So this is the saw. This is how it's shipped also, is upside down. The table itself is actually wrapped in plastic, so you got to pull the plastic off to get going with the assembly. So first step is to, once you get everything unpackaged, look everything over, make sure everything looks good. And then the first step after that is to assemble the extension tables. All right. So grab one of your extension tables, and there is 3 holes on each side. I'm trying to get the whole thing in the video here, but it's kind of long. There's a bigger hole and then a smaller hole here. So what you want to do is the bigger hole needs to go toward the table. So I'm going to go ahead and get that positioned here best I can. Obviously I'm going to have to square it up once I get the table upright, but for now you just want to get it in position and then get your hardware. Now the hardware I'm using that is for this step is the M10s socket head screws. You want a lock washer and a regular washer on there, and this is where the Allen wrenches come in also, as far as these socket head screws. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I got a set of Allen wrench sockets for the ratchet, so I'm gonna use this. These are 8mm. And from my experience, always start all your hardware first to make sure it's not cross-threading or anything along those lines. And that way, because if you tighten one of these up, if you tighten one of them up first and the holes aren't lined up, you're going to have a hard time getting the rest of the hardware started. And I'm just going to snug them up for now. And I'll do final tightening later when I go to get everything squared up. And that's it for that. Do the same thing on the other side. There's 2 extension tables, so one on this side, one on the other side. So this one's a little tough to center one here. So I got a 6-inch extension with my 8mm Allen wrench socket, and I don't want to get all the way down on the ground because I'm lazy. So I'm just feeling for the hole and getting it started. Makes it easier to get in there and get started. And then tighten them up. And that's that. All right, next we're going to assemble the legs. You got your leg corners and then your 2 legs. 2 of them are skinnier than the others, than the other 2. So we're gonna get these assembled, and you're gonna need the small hardware pack, and right there on the side you can see 24 bolt M6x10s. So like I said, the hardware packs lay everything out for you, so it's real simple to figure out. And these bolts are a 4mm button head bolt. So get it to focus in there, but 4mm. All right, let me get this all set up and we'll get the legs put together. Okay, so here's your corner, and this goes to the top. This hole goes to the top, because what that's going to do, you'll see, I can't adjust the camera right now, but these are going to go over, flip upside down and get bolted to the bottom of the table saw cabinet. On the back side of here, as you can see, there's a anchor nut. So all you're gonna do is put 3 of the bolts in each one of these holes, and then tighten them up like so. You might take some finagling, but get them finger tight for now, and then making sure everything is sitting level, then go back and tighten up. So again, it's kind of a tedious task, or whatever you want to call it, just to get them started. But again, like I said earlier, with the table extensions, you want to get all of them started before you tighten them all the way down, or else it'll be hard to get them all started, and you'll struggle with it, like I am here with just the first one. All right, so once you get the leg section all put together and all the bolts are finger tight, as you can see, it's still kind of loose. You go around and you gotta torque all these down. So 24 bolts, torque them all down, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, everything is tightened up. The 6 bolts on each corner are tightened up. So the next step is to put the dust chute. But before you put the dust chute on, the dust collection chute on, there's a piece of foam down here below the motor, and it's basically to prevent the motor from shifting and getting jarred around while it's in shipment. So I'm gonna get that removed, and then we'll put the dust collection port on, which is down here. Okay, so I got the foam piece removed, and now it's time for the dust collection. As you can see there, there's a mark that says front, so make sure that goes in the front, and then you're just gonna sit it there and good to go. Right after that, you're gonna flip the legs over, they're solid, so again, be careful, and line up the 4 bolts, the bolt holes in the top of here with the 4 bolt holes that are in the bottom of the table. Okay. Might take some finagling, and you're going to use there's 4 bolts. You're going to use 4 bolts that are in the small hardware pack, lock washer, flat washer. They're 6mm socket head bolts, so use those to tighten down the legs to the table. Hand tightening them for now to make sure everything is lined up and where it needs to be, and do the final torque once you get all 4 bolts started and not cross threading. And then 6mm Allen wrench. Again, in the kit or in the box with the saw, I'm just using a little bit easier tools to work with. I'm gonna go ahead and get this tightened down and go on to the next step. Okay, once you get the 4 bolts tightened down for the legs, the next step is to assemble the casters. And this has a caster setup, a mobile base comes with it. You don't have to buy it extra. It comes with the saw. Awesome feature. The casters are real solid. They're heavy. They feel like they weigh about 1 pound, but just by themselves, maybe more. Real smooth rolling action. All pivot. So again, the saw is very mobile when it's all together and you're using it. So the first step of assembling the casters is to remove these bolts right here. It's a 13mm socket and a 14mm socket or wrench, whatever you want to use. There's one here, one here, one here, and one here. And we'll go ahead and knock that out here. Okay, so real simple. You just want to loosen these up, and you're going to grab one of your casters and it doesn't matter how the swivel's fitting. What matters is these holes line up with the holes that the bolt came out of. So right there, this little tab's going to be on the inside right here. You're going to line that up, hold it, insert the bolt to find the holes, and tighten them up. That's simple. The bolt is 13 millimeters. I got ratchet sockets for ease of tightening. Just got to make sure they're going in the right direction. And like I was saying, the bolt head is 13 millimeter. The nut is supposed to be 14 millimeter, but it is not. Is it 13 also? It's 13 also. So the instructions are incorrect on that front. Let me grab the right tool. Okay, I verified the instructions. The instructions straight up said use a 13 millimeter and 14 millimeter for the bolts and the nuts. It's actually two 13 millimeters. Obviously, you're gonna double check when you get your saw. So I got a socket and the wrench, and get these tightened up. Not sure how tight these are supposed to be. Do that to all four. Okay, so we got the casters on, just like that. And next is to install or assemble the connecting rod between the front caster set and the rear caster set. And what this does is, this is the foot pedal. So when you press this down, it lifts up on the table saw, so you can roll it around, and then when you kick it up, it drops the saw down, and it's stable. Then the saw's stable. So we got to connect this rod here, basically from this bolt to this bolt. I'm gonna lay this out the way they got it in the instruction manual, so it's correct. And this is a button head screw, or sorry, a socket head screw or bolt, and it is a 6 millimeter, both of them, along with a 13 millimeter nut, so locking nut. So let me get the camera set up, and we'll go ahead and knock that out. Okay, so very important, make sure everything is lined up correctly. Snug that down, let's make some room. Try and go ahead and flip this over so I can get it stable on the workbench. And just snug it down. There's enough play here. Snug those down, and don't over tighten, or else you'll bend these tabs. So you don't want to do that. And that's that. And next step is to actually install it on the legs of the table saw. Okay, so the next step, like I said, is to install the casters onto the legs. And if you notice, there's two, kind of hard to get the light to hit it just right, but there's two bowl holes right here, and they're two on each corner, each caster set. So the last 8 bolts that are in the small hardware pack is what you're going to use. They're a 5 millimeter button button bolt, socket button bolt, button socket bolt, whatever. Anyways, that's going to be your last 8 bolts in the small hardware pack, and these bolt holes are going to line up with these bolt holes in the leg, or in the legs. So there's 2 on each side, or on each corner. So we'll get that lined up and get everything tightened up. Oh, and before I install that, the front of the saw, make sure that the pedal, this pedal here, is at the front of the, is in between these 2 legs at the front of the saw. So I sped this section up so I could keep it in the video but not waste valuable instruction time. It took me about 3 minutes to install the mobile base up to this point. Okay, so there you have it. I gotta tighten them down. That's the next step. But just wanted to show you that it can be done by yourself, but I would recommend getting a buddy to help hold everything stable while you try and get the bolt started. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tightened down, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so everything's tightened down, and again, this is how it works. So obviously the saw is upside down, but when you press down on it, the caster's raised, and when you lift up on the pedal, they lower. So that's how it works. And the next step is flipping it up to an upright position, which is going to take a couple bodies, people, because this thing is heavy. I know the shipping weight is 250 pounds. I'm not sure how much it is, right now, but I'm not going to hurt my back. So I'm going to go ahead and get some friends, and we'll get this upright, and we'll go from there. One thing I forgot to mention before I get this flipped over is the feet for the legs. You got to get those on there, and they're real simple. You just like that, just put them on, and boom, good to go. And then you get it flipped over. So got the table saw up on its legs, sitting up right now, and very nice top, very smooth. The only thing I noticed right off the bat was it looks like there's some Loctite or some type of thread sealant that got that squeezed out there on the table. I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna get that off of there and stuff, but that's no big deal. But the surface of the table feels really good. It comes coated with oil, wrapped in plastic, so you got to remove that. And then even I'm not a big fan of stamped steel side tables, but these feel pretty solid. So we'll see how they last. So, all right. Next step is the height and bevel adjustments there on the side. Okay, so locate the 2 knobs. They're in a plastic bag along with 2 washers, 2 flat washers. Locate those, and also the 2 hand wheels for the adjustment hand wheels, and we'll get those on. To install the adjustment hand wheels onto the saw, you're going to remove that. It's shipped with this thread protector over these bolts. So just remove that, and you're going to put the hand wheel on. There's a keyway or a roll pin right here, and it's going to insert into the keyways right here on the back of the hand wheel. So you're just going to put this on, making sure that seats properly. Put the flat washer out of the bag and the knob and tighten it down. Very simple. Tighten it down. We'll move over to the bevel adjustment. And same thing here. Remove the thread protector from the bolt. Insert the hand wheel, ensuring the roll pin goes into the keyway. Washer. And locking knob. Okay, so as you can see right here, it comes with a blade and also blade wrenches to remove those. To make blade changes, just remove this knob. Fairly simple. Grab your two wrenches off. Get those up there by where the blade is. We're going to be doing this next. So remove the blade from the wrapping. It looks like it's coated in some oil too. But also, if you notice right here, this is for storing your miter slot. And the miter slot, real simple, all it does is just slide right in there for storage if you're not using it up on a tabletop. Another neat feature of this is it comes with a push stick, and the push stick has magnets. No set place on the saw, wherever it's comfortable for you to store it. Obviously, you're not going to put it right here because your wrenches are going to go, but just to to demonstrate, you can. It'll magnet to anywhere on this saw and hold there. So easy storage, organization, so you're not losing your push stick or your miter gauge. Okay, so next we're going to install the blade. We already removed it off the side of the table saw, and what you want to do is you want to raise the height adjustment all the way up to the top, so easier access. To do that, just adjust the front hand wheel in the front and raise it on up. When you get it all the way up, there's a nut and a washer on the arbor of the motor. Go ahead and remove those and set those aside. On this washer, you want to make sure when you pull it off, if you notice there's a bevel to it. Pay particular attention to that when you go to put the saw back on, or when you go to put this back on. This flat section here needs to be up against the blade, like so, with the bevel out. So be mindful of that when you go to put this on. Same way with the blade rotation. You want to make sure that the teeth are facing down toward the front of the saw. Blades rotate this way, depending on how you're looking at it, but if you're looking at it from this angle, the blade will rotate counterclockwise. So also, to get the blade on, you can fight with it if you want, but there's this little level or locking lever here for the riving knife. Just raise that up, and that way you don't have to go around it. Slide the blade on to the arbor. Again, paying particular attention to the rotation of the blade and this bevel on the washer. Put that on, and then the nut. If you notice on one of these wrenches, one of them has an open end. That's going to go on this back side of the blade. There's two flat spots on that washer, and then slide that one over and tighten up. Nice and tight. That's how you install the blade. So once the blade's installed, you want to just rotate, make sure you get a nice free rotation, which we do. I don't hear any binding or nothing like that. And then you just want to lower the blade. Lock it down, and then install the throat plate. There's a little keyway right here, or a little key clamp that goes in the back. You're going to put that in first at an angle and press it down. Now there's also a magnet right here that'll lock on to the plate, so it stays in there. That's it. Okay, next you want to locate your long rail and the short rail. There's 2 rails. And also there's a bag of rods, locking rods, that will attach the 2 together. So what you want to do is 2 will go on the front rails and 1 will go on the back rail. On the front rails there's 2 slots. Making sure that the head of the Allen set screw is facing out. You just want to slide these in. There's a little line on each one of these rods. Right in the center, you want to get those lined up or else you lose it. But get those installed there. And just snug them up for now until you get the rods installed. You want to make sure they sit straight and flat. So just snug them up so they don't go sliding around on you. This Allen key I'm using is the smallest one that came with the saw. So, and then you want to line up the 2. You want to line up the 2 here to just like so. And again, just snug it up for now. Not real tight. Set that aside, and you want to do the back rail as well. There's a long back rail and a short back rail. Now on the back rail, you'll notice that there's 3 holes and then a little bit of a distance between this hole and this hole. This goes towards this side, which has 4 holes and then a long distance and then the hole down here at the end. So what you want to do is they should line up right here, pan out a little bit, just like this. Can't get everything in there, but that's the way they should line up. And then you're gonna insert same way as we did with the front rail. Just snug them up for now. That's it. Okay, so the next step is you want to make sure that there's no gaps in these, and you want to set the rails on a nice flat surface. Right now the flattest surface I got is the table of the table saw. So I'm going to loosen these up a little bit just so I can move them around. I'm going to push these together, ensuring there's no gap and everything's straight. I'm going to snug down a little bit at a time, ensuring everything stays straight. And then go ahead and torque it down. Not a lot of torque, obviously, because these are just little set screws. And then you want to do the same with the front rail. Set them down, nice and flat surface. Again, flattest surface I got is the table saw itself. Ensure there's no gaps in between the rails. And there you have it. All right, to install the front rail, what we're gonna do is there is 9 bolts in the big or the large fastener pack. You're gonna grab 8 of them. They're M8s by 20s. M8s by 30s, sorry. They're M8s by 30s. And they're a regular bolt. And you're gonna slide them into this track right here. You're gonna get 4 on this front section. And 4 on the back section. Well, let me rephrase that. You're going to get 4 on the short section here and 4 on the long section. Okay, now where these bolts are going to go, see I got all 8 of them here. Spread them out a little bit. Where these bolts are going to go are these front holes. Boom, boom, boom. Right here. Now there's 9 in that fastener pack. The 9th one's going to be used for a spreader bar later. I'll show you that later. Now to get this thing positioned and mounted, flip it around. The long section here is going to go toward the right hand side of the table, and you're just going to kind of adjust your bolts to where they line up with the holes. All 8 of them. Takes a little finagling, a little patience. Don't get frustrated. One bolt at a time. Get it on there. And you're going to get the nuts that are also, there's 16 of these in the large fastener package as well. And you're just gonna, you gotta kind of feel for it. Unless you got a set of helping hands, they can put them on. I'm working by myself here, so I gotta feel for it. Okay, now we're gonna install the back rail. Pretty much same idea as the front rail. However, this time we're gonna be using socket head cap screws, and they're gonna go through these holes here, which are then gonna tighten down into the table itself, and then you're gonna use nuts on the back side of the extension tables here. So these are threaded, as you can see there. So these will tighten down once they go through the rail. These will tighten down into the back of the table, but then here you'll have a nut on the back side. Okay, so to position this onto the table, this rear rail, there's a lip right here, real small lip, probably about 1/32 of an inch thick, and that's going to sit up against the bottom of the table. And then there's also a little bit of a bevel rail here that's going to go up toward the top and toward the back. So get it kind of positioned close. Make sure 2 holes are lined up on the extension table, and then you're going to tighten up the 4 bolts that go through these 4 center holes here, and then make sure you got 2 holes down here for this extension table. So using the Allen key that came with the saw, get everything lined up, and just snug down the bolts for now. You don't want to over tighten them because we got to make adjustments and make sure everything's square. So go ahead and do that. And then for the extension tables, put a bolt through with a nut on the backside. Okay, next step is to get the rails aligned properly. As you can see, right now I can slide them back and forth, which is fine because we want to get them all lined up with the rip fence where the rip fence needs to be and all that stuff. So first things first, raise the height of the blade all the way up and grab your rip fence. Place it on the saw and bring it all the way up against the blade. Making sure not to bend the blade. So you just want it to sit up against the blade as if you're just going up against it. Now this indicator here should be sitting at 0, and it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to nudge the rail. Do not tighten down the rip fence handle, because if you tighten it down you won't be able to move the rail. So just securely holding the fence against the blade so the fence doesn't move. You're going to adjust these rails until your mark is at 0. Once your mark is at 0, snug down the center bolts here. Still don't tighten them completely. The instruction manual says tighten them down. Doesn't specify, but I'm going to do some fine-tuning adjustments right now. And I'll cover those real quick. So just go ahead and snug these down, but not super tight. I'm just snagging up the 4 bolts that are on the table itself, not the extension tables. Now if you come around the back and you look up underneath here, you can see the lip and the bottom of the table. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift this up. You can see there's some gap there, because I know this is straight and I know the table is straight. So I'm gonna lift this up and I'm gonna tighten those down, or tighten these 4 back center bolts down. And to do that, again, I'm just gonna, kind of hard to do and get a good camera angle. You can see as I squeeze this, you can hear it bottoming out. So from here I'm gonna lift up and tighten this one down. Snug it down, actually. I'm gonna snug this one down. Didn't move that much. And then I'm gonna do the center bolts first. Squeezing 2 center bolts first. Tighten it down, torque it nice and tight. Loosen this one up a little bit more just to make sure I'm getting it seated right. Tighten that down.
that one down. And tighten that one down. Now the reason I did that is to help with aligning the rip fence. Okay, come around to the front, and what you want to do then is making sure that you're still zeroed out on your marker. You want to kind of push up on the front rail in the center, and you're going to get a gap along the bottom of the table. You want to make sure this gap is the same all the way down. You also want to make sure that the fence will glide nice and easy the entire length of the table without getting hung up. And that's how you get it lined up, or line the rails up. So once you get it lined up and your gap is set and looks fairly even all the way down, then tighten up the 4 center bolts, starting with the 2 center ones. This might take a little bit of time. You just need to have a little bit of patience. Don't rush it, because if you rush it, you'll just run into issues later when you're trying to build a project, and you'll get frustrated. Just, if you take your time now, it'll save you a bunch of time later. I'm gonna go ahead and lower the blade and make sure I got good sliding all the way up and down the table. There we go. All right. So I might need to adjust the wings a little bit, but for the most part, slides pretty simple. One finger and it's sliding pretty good. And I'm going to go with that for now. I might do some final adjustments later. Now, I was talking about the gap on the table, and between the fence and the table. If you look here, there's a little bit of gap. If it was sitting high, it'd look something like that. That's all the way down, and it's pretty, it might be hard to tell in here or in the video, but it's pretty even gap all the way down. And you want to do that the entire length of the table. Okay, so next we're gonna get the extension tables all squared up and level, lined up, so we can tighten down the 2 outer bolts on each side, you know, on the front and rear rails on both extension tables. So to do that, the instructions say to use a framing square, which is fine, but the first thing I want to do is, since I put the extension tables on when I had the foam out, or with the foam on the ground, on the floor, it's not as hard as wood like they recommended. So I got a little bit of a gap right here. It's hard to see, but I got a little bit of a gap. The extension table is a little bit lower than the actual table. So what I'm gonna do, what I have to do is I have to loosen up the bolts down here and raise up the extension table a little bit, and then I'll go and get the extension table level so I can tighten up these two bolts in the back, and then I'll do the same thing on the front as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done, and we'll move on to the other side. Just loosening them up for now. Don't loosen them too much. Again, patience is key here. The more patience you have here and take a little bit of time setting it up properly, then the more time it'll save you down the road. Looks pretty level there. Pretty even, not level, even. Tighten that up. The 3 main bolts going down the line here, going into the table, pretty much adjust your height. To adjust the levelness, you're just going to push up and down on this, and then tighten these 2 bolts up here on the back rail and the front rail. Double check. And no daylight. All right. So now we'll go ahead and get this nice and squared off with the rest of the table. And really all you're doing is lifting up, making sure there's no daylight, and then tightening it down. Right here you can see the daylight I got. So just gonna push it up. It's gonna be hard to do with one hand. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push it up, make it level. No daylight. And then tighten up these 2 bolts here. And that takes care of that. I'm not gonna record the other side. It's same procedure. Okay, so we got everything leveled out, zeroed out, nice and straight, square, whatever you want to call it. And next is going to be the spreader bar here for the end of the rails. This prevents the rails from getting pushed out, you know, knocked out of square, some support. So if you notice that these are offset a little bit, and there's a certain way you're supposed to install them. So first things first though, is you want to take that 9th bolt that was in the large fastener pack that was used for the front rail and slide that in right here. Slide that in, as well as the last button head bolt, button socket hole, whatever, you know. That's going to go in this hole back here. Once we get the spreader bar or spreader rail installed. So these are going to be toward the bottom. These tabs are going to be toward the bottom and facing away from the table. So line that one up. Force that in. Not sure if I'm going to keep this like that. It just doesn't look right. But then it says 2 nuts go on to the bolt. And just to make sure that the fence doesn't hit, well, I would be off anyway, so no point there. So make sure that's squared up a little bit. Just kind of eyeballing this here. And then go ahead and tighten these down. I'll tighten this first one down first. And that's the spreader bar. Okay, next is the power switch. Obviously, we haven't touched the power switch, so all the assembly steps that were previously completed, the saw should have been unplugged. So if you had it plugged in, one, you're not following instructions, and two, that's very dangerous if you had it plugged in while you were assembling this thing. So we're gonna go ahead and install a switch, remove all the bubble wrap and plastic, rips right off, and you're gonna grab, there's 2 bolts, 2 washers, 2 lock washers, and 2 nuts in the large fastener pack. There should be the last 2 bolts that you have. Take the two bolts, slide them in the rail just like on the, just like before with mounting the rail. You got a little bit of play there, I guess, when it's mounted. Lock washer and a nut. Go ahead, tighten it down. And that is the switch. Okay, so now we have the end caps to put on, and I've already got these 2 on, this side and this side. One thing I did notice is there's supposed to be 2 screws that go in here on this end cap, but there's no, it goes in right here, and you'll see on the other when I do the other end. But up underneath here, there's a set screw there, or not a set screw, but a self-tapping Phillips head screw, and that's what secures it in place. The back one just pushes in. No screws required to hold that in. So let's go do the other side. So as you can see, this just lines up like so. And then you're gonna put a screw here and a screw here. And they're just regular self-tapping Phillips head screws. And then for this end cap, all you're gonna do is just get it lined up and push it in. Doesn't sound too good, but it goes in. It's just those little plastic clips. That's all it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this one up, and next we're going to install the blade guard and the anti-kickback pause. As you can see, I got the saw's unplugged anyways, but the safety key's out, so safety is key here, no pun intended. Go ahead and raise the saw blade all the way up, and right here is your spreader slash riving knife. Okay, what this does is this will raise or lower, and it actually raises or lowers with the saw blade, as you can see. Raises or lowers with the saw blade. But it also raises and lowers by itself, or not, well, not by itself, but independently. And to do that, you're gonna flip this lever right here. Okay, that's how sharp that blade is. Just that quick, cut my rubber glove here. But right now it's in the down position, and the down position is for non-through cuts. So if you want to use a dado set or something along those lines, you would have it in the down position. Okay, in the up position, this is considered spreader, and that's when your blade guard is attached and your anti-kickback paws are attached. So it should always be in the up position with the guard and stuff, the guard and the paws being used. Unless, like I said, unless you're doing a dado or a non-through cut. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this in the up position and just lower the lever to lock it back in. It's got a little tension behind it. Okay. So the first thing to install is the anti-kickback paws. Now what they do is, as you're cutting wood, you might get a kickback, and these teeth right here will grab the wood and prevent it from kicking back and causing injury. So to install this, there's a little slit there and a spring-loaded button, I guess you could call it, on the side. So squeeze that together, and it's going to go. If you notice, there's a notch here, a notch here, and a notch here. It's going to go in this farthest aft notch. With the teeth down, squeeze this button, line up the guard, or the paws, and you'll hear it click. There it goes. You'll hear it click into position. Again, this is easier to do with 2 hands. I'm trying to do it with 1. I just couldn't get the camera set up right. This is about my 5th take on this. I just couldn't get the camera set up right. So, but that's your anti-kickback paws. And as the wood gets fed through, they'll raise up and then prevent the wood from getting kicked back. So now the blade guard. The blade guard goes in these 2 slots here, and you want to make sure it's positioned right. And you'll notice that there's a lever right here, and then a rod. Basically, that rod is going to go right in here. It's going to feed in here. You're going to rotate the blade guard down and then lock the lever back in place. So try and do this like so. There we go. And if you saw that or not, let the blade guards down and lock it in place. Okay? And that's how that works. So to release it, just take that off. So hopefully you can see. Let's see if I can. Boom, boom, and lock it in place. Okay, hopefully you could see that. And then you want to go ahead and lower the blade back down, ensuring that the anti-kickback paws don't get hung up. And you know what? I messed up. So let's do this again. You got to put the throat plate on. Silly me. So the reason I raised it was to show you the lever and how to raise and lower the riving knife and spreader. So now that I've done that, let's lower the blade. Put the throat plate back in, like so. Now you can go ahead and put the anti-kickback paws on. There we go. And there we go. Now we're all set to cut some wood. Go ahead and lower the blade all the way down again. Okay, somehow, some way, I missed the installation of the nice brakes, dude. Missed the installation of the rip fence holder. It'll go down here. It'll go right here on the side of the legs, and basically there's a bolt. You can see it in there, right there, with a nut on the back side. And I'm going to take those out, and then there's a little plug on the side or on the back side of the holder, and it'll go in the smaller hole here. The bolt will go through the larger hole. Tighten that down. Pretty simple. All right, go ahead and knock those out. One for the front, one for the back, and go ahead and get that knocked out. All right, so as you can see, I got those installed. Whatever you do, don't miss this step. Hopefully you catch it in the instruction manual. Before I did, it's actually done when you are finalizing the install of the casters before you flip the saw upright. So make sure you don't miss that step, because that was actually kind of uncomfortable to get up underneath there to tighten the nut. So, but as you can see, that's what it's used for, as to hold the rip fence. And all in all, I'm fairly happy with the saw. I haven't used it yet to cut any wood, so I'll give an official review later on. Okay, so I was going through doing some fine-tune adjustments, and I noticed I made a mistake earlier in the video when I was talking about zeroing out the rip fence gauge. So I'm going to show you how to properly set it now that I figured out how to do it. And what I did earlier wasn't 100% incorrect. I just didn't cover everything because I didn't notice it until now. Okay, so as you can see, as I had it set up earlier, I had this side zeroed out, you know, on the right hand side of the rip fence. However, with this setup the way that it is, when you move the fence to the other side, to the left hand side of the blade, you can see here that this mark doesn't line up. So what I did was I went to go adjust the zero plate here, or the sight gauge here, and I'm all the way over. I couldn't get any closer than, what is that, 1/4 inch. So I noticed that this one is all the way over as well. So what you need to do when you set this up, when you go to set your front rail and your measuring tapes, is loosen these Phillips screws up. Just loosen them up. Slide this sight gauge all the way over. Basically, depending on how your saw came, slide both the sight gauges all the way inboard to the rip fence, and then tighten them up. Okay, and then adjust the fence the way I mentioned earlier in the video. As you can see, with this side gauge all the way over, and I'm all the way up against the blade now, I'm 1/4 inch or so off. So let me adjust the camera a little bit more. I bumped it. So now I can adjust this adjust the front rail. I already had it loosened up. Adjust the front rail to where you're at zero. And now when you go to the other side of the blade, now you're pretty close. Now you can adjust these to get zero on both sides of the blade, because you can slide this one however needed. So it takes a little bit of time to get it zeroed out right, but like I said earlier in the video, you know, patience now will pay dividends in the end, because you won't be fighting with it while you're trying to build something. So and it's a matter of going back and forth. That's all. What, zero here, zero there. Obviously, if you're doing really fine woodworking, you're going to be measuring from the blade to the rip fence anyways, but this will get you close. So that's that on that fine tuning. Okay, so I went over everything, and really the only thing that needed adjusting was the rails, and that's mainly because you install them. So the sight gauges, adjusting those sight gauges, just make sure that you bring them all the way inboard before you set the rail, and then you can zero them out from there. So I checked the angle on the blade and the well, on the blade, and 45 degrees is 45 degrees, 90 is 90. So, you know, all that, I didn't really mess with that. And besides checking them with a digital meter, digital incidence meter. So, what else is there really? Other than that, I got rid of the, whatever this was, I think it was Loctite. And these two set screws here are actually your adjustments for your 90 degree and your 45 degree zeroing out. So if, when you get yours, if you know, and you want to make adjustments and verify everything, these are the two bolts that you will, or the two set screws that you'll adjust to set those. Also down in here, raise up the blade. Everything's in the manual, but just to clarify, these check your position of your splitter, your riving knife. The you know, it needs to be in line with the blade so it doesn't get hung up on the wood at all. If you need to adjust it, you're gonna use these. If it's too far in, you know, side to side, then you're gonna use the two bigger ones here, the two socket head cap screws. You're gonna adjust those. You can see the elongated holes there. And then if it's tilted at all, then you're gonna use the little set screws there. Obviously, you'll have to adjust, you'll have to loosen up the socket head cap screws there so you can adjust the tilt of it, but that's where you'll adjust that. What else was there? I believe that is it as far as zeroing out. The fence was pretty well zeroed out as well. You can find videos online of people loosening up these 4 bolts here to adjust the angle of the rip fence. My rip fence seems to be pretty well in line with the blade. I check it against the miter gauge, or the miter gauge, miter slots here. And then I also checked it up against the blade. I went out an inch and then I measured, and I had an inch at the front and at the end of the blade, or at the back of the blade. So everything looked good there. So I didn't mess with any adjustments. So just read the manual when it comes up to it, you know, to do fine tuning and stuff. Obviously, I'll probably have to make some adjustments as soon as I actually start cutting some wood. The first project I'm going to be doing with this is a pedestal for my wife's washer and dryer, or for our washer and dryer we just got. So I'll be working on that and using this table saw as you know, for that project. So just wanted to make sure I got everything zeroed out well and stuff, because I'm going to be working on a very tight spot. So I want to have some tight clearances. Not sure if I'll do a video on that or not. I might. So I know I need to get some videos up. Keep processing videos. Stuff just keeps coming up with the Navy and everything. So other than that, so far, awesome saw. I'll let you know how it goes. All right, so there you have it. The assembly of the Ridgid R4512 10-inch contractor table saw. Absolutely phenomenal saw so far. Again, I'm going to be using it to do some pedestals for my washer and dryer that we just got. Didn't feel like spending $600 on a set of pedestals, so I'm going to make my own. And that's really what my channel is all about, is really thrifty DIY projects, saving money, doing it yourself. So stay tuned, and you know, share, comment, subscribe, and just keep an eye out for future projects. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next video.